Today we're going to jump into our next walkthrough of one of the lessons within Structured Literacy with Ease. In the last couple of videos, I explained the different types of lessons that are incorporated in our program Structured Literacy with Ease. One of the types of lessons are considered isolated sounds. Then we also have spelling rules lessons. Today, we're going to move into an affixes lesson. So that's another type of lesson in the program. And the last type of lessons that we have in the program are syllable types and division rules. So today what we're going to do is we're going to dive into an affixes lesson, which is going to focus on the suffix ed. So as you can see in sequence 3, lesson 23, this is where we're going to start phasing out our phonological awareness warm-ups. So as you can see in the last couple of videos and sequences, every single lesson had a phonological awareness warm-up, and now we start to phase that out in sequence 3. So we begin our day 1 lesson, sequence 3, lesson 23, focusing on introducing new high-frequency words through phoneme grapheme mapping. That's always how we begin our lessons. We start with introducing new high-frequency words because at the end of our program, we will have introduced 358 high-frequency words throughout the whole program. Then we move into the next part of the lesson where we're introducing and we're explicitly teaching the focus skill for the lesson. This is a lesson on a suffix, and the suffix that they're focusing on is the final ed that makes 3 distinct sounds. So we're doing an explicit lesson on the skill, which is the suffix ed. Then again, we move back into phoneme grapheme mapping, but what we're doing is we're focusing on the skill. So since we're focusing on suffixes with ed, we're going to phoneme grapheme map words that have the suffix ed. So now we're bringing in phoneme grapheme mapping with the focus skill that we're focusing on. Then we move into, again, the application of the skill, because that's where we see the learning happening. After we do explicit teaching, we move into a scaffolded approach of application of the skills. So now we go into decoding. So the way we do that with decoding is we focus on decoding words, then we move into phrases, then we move into sentences, and then of course we move into our book. As you noticed in earlier lessons, we started with phonemes. So now that we're further along in the program, we take those phonemes, those individual phonemes out because we've done so much explicit instruction on those individual phonemes. Now we move into our words, phrases, and sentences in decoding. And then, of course, we go into the application of the skill of encoding, where, again, we're going to give the students a dictation sentence that has the direct skill that we just focused on, and they practice that encoding skill, because application is where that mastery will come in. Then we move to day 2. Day 2, again, starts with a review of the high-frequency words through phoneme grapheme mapping that we introduced in day 1. Then again, now we're in day 2, so now we're going to review that skill that we explicitly taught the day prior on the suffix ed. Then we go into our word chaining activity. Remember, word chaining is all about building words based on explicitly taught sound symbols. And what this allows for is that orthographic mapping to occur in the brain. And when that happens, it builds a student's orthographic lexicon or sight word vocabulary. So all of these different activities builds on the ability for the brain to map words automatically. That's what will help with the automaticity and sight word reading as students learn all of the different sounds in English code. Then, of course, we move on to the application of the skills. So now we're bringing in decoding of the book. So now we bring in the explicit and systematic decodable book that was written specifically for this lesson, where we're going to focus on the skill for this lesson, which brings in that suffix ed, and it also scaffolds every other skill we've taught in all of the lessons prior. So we're bringing in all of the prior high-frequency words and skills and phonemes that we already taught, because everything is scaffolded and spiraled within the program. And then, of course, we move on to, again, application and through encoding. So now what the students are going to be doing is writing words with that focus skill, which is the suffix ed. So there's always a scaffolded approach and the application of the skill in decoding and encoding. Then we move to day 3, where we review high frequency words that we taught previously in the last 2 days. As we move into sequence 3, they focus on a word find, now looking for the high frequency words we explicitly taught. Then we again review that specific skill we taught the last 2 days, again with that suffix ed. We go into phoneme grapheme mapping again. Again, this builds orthographic mapping. This allows the brain to orthographically map words, which in turn builds a student's orthographic lexicon. Then, of course, we move into the application of the skill through decoding, and they're going to do nonsense word reading, and they can do a second read of the decodable book. And then, of course, we go into, again, the application of the skill with encoding, where they're going to get a dictation sentence, and again, focusing on the skill that we taught the last few days. Then we move into day 4's lesson, where we're going to do a formative assessment, which is a quick check of skill mastery. So now we're checking to see if the students have mastered the skill of utilizing the suffix ed. So this is where we're doing a quick check of the skill. And then this is where our program really differs from many programs out there. We ensure that we're covering all strands of Scarborough's reading rope, because we always bring in comprehension and vocabulary development. So through comprehension, we always focus on one specific skill that we're going to address within the lesson to focus on comprehension development. And then we focus on vocabulary development. So we're bringing in words from the text. And sometimes, because these texts have such controlled vocabulary, we bring in vocabulary development in other ways, where we're having students pick out words from the book, or we're picking out words from the decodable book, and then we're creating synonyms and higher level, more difficult, more complex vocabulary words from the story that we can utilize through synonyms. So that's how we bring in vocabulary development using controlled texts of a decodable reader. So as you can see, we address all strands of Scarborough's reading rope within our program. We always focus on word recognition, and we bring in that language comprehension, because what is the ultimate goal here? It is skilled reading. So as you can see, structured literacy with ease covers all strands of Scarborough's reading rope to ensure that we're building skilled readers and masterful decoders, which is what we will achieve in every classroom using structured literacy with ease. So thanks so much for watching this walkthrough of Sequence 3, Lesson 23 on one of our affixes lesson. We hope you enjoyed this video.